Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are completely tearing down absolutely everything you thought you knew about financial survival. Seriously, we are going to break down the actual highly personalized math of true financial resilience. Now look, we're not talking about those generic pieces of advice you see in basic personal finance blogs or those fuzzy guidelines that don't actually apply to real life. Oh no, we are going to look at the hard numbers, the hidden risks, and a really compelling narrative about exactly why the conventional wisdom is actively putting you in grave danger right now. If you have ever looked at your bank account and felt like you're doing everything right, following all the rules, but you still feel incredibly financially fragile, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's dive in.
We absolutely have to start things off with a very serious question. Think about this for a second. What if the most fundamental rule of personal finance is actually a giant trap? For decades, financial gurus, textbooks, and honestly just common sense have hammered this one golden rule into our heads. Save 3 to 6 months of living expenses for your emergency fund. It sounds totally reasonable, right? It's comforting. But here is the terrifying truth that nobody talks about. 3 months of expenses is not a real number. It is just a starting point that most people never, ever think beyond. And for millions of hardworking people out there, stopping at that generic, out-of-the-box number is literally a financial catastrophe just waiting to happen. It gives you this warm, fuzzy illusion of safety right up until the floor completely drops out from underneath you.
To really understand this, let's look at the stories of two incredibly relatable people who did everything completely by the book. First, meet Marcus. Marcus is a senior software engineer living in Austin, Texas. He's a standard W-2 employee, gets great performance reviews, and he did exactly what the experts say. He had $22,000 parked securely in a high-yield savings account. That was exactly 3 months of his living expenses. Perfect, right? Well, on a random Tuesday in October, he was laid off. And suddenly, that impenetrable fortress of cash felt like a really flimsy tent in a hurricane. Then, on the other side, there's Sarah out in Phoenix. She is a freelance UX designer. She was even more cautious. She had $28,000 saved up, which, if you just look at it on paper, looked like nearly 8 months of a financial cushion. But when the economy shifted and her client pipeline completely dried up, she realized something awful. In her highly specialized healthcare software niche, replacing that income takes 4 to 6 months, at best. Both Marcus and Sarah did everything right by the old rules, and yet, both of them faced absolute catastrophe.
So you might be wondering, where did this standard 3-month rule even come from in the first place? Honestly, it was designed for a 1970s corporate worker. That rule assumed an environment of highly stable income, a traditional 2-income household, rock-solid employer healthcare, and a predictable job market where you could easily just go out and find a new gig in, say, 8 to 12 weeks. But look at the reality of the modern workforce we're navigating today. It is a totally different universe. By 2026, there are an estimated 76.4 million freelancers in the US. That is roughly 38% of the entire workforce. Our modern economy is built on short-term project work, hyper-specialized skills, and massive volatility. Back in 2023, the average unemployment duration was already creeping up to 20.6 weeks. Applying a rigid 1970s rule to a 2020s economy is literally like bringing a map of a completely different city to try and navigate your own hometown. It just doesn't work.
Now, what's honestly terrifying is the specific number right here, 23.0. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics for 2025, the average duration of unemployment reached 23 weeks. I really want you to stop and think about that. 23 weeks. That is nearly 6 full months of burning through your savings just to survive while you're desperately looking for work. Almost half a year. If you follow the standard advice and only have 3 months saved, you are mathematically guaranteed to completely run out of money halfway through an average job search. You'll be out of cash just when you're getting to the final interview stages.
And here is the real kicker of this whole situation. You are not the average. Nobody is. Your ability to bounce back depends heavily on what industry you actually work in. For example, if you work in construction, the median unemployment duration is a relatively brief 8.6 weeks. Okay, you can probably survive that on a standard emergency fund. But if you work in finance, that number jumps up to 12.9 weeks. And if you are in the information sector, which includes technology, software, media, the mean unemployment duration absolutely skyrockets to 28.7 weeks. That is over 6 months of waiting for a paycheck. If you are a highly specialized professional, the market for your specific skills is incredibly thin, and the interview process is notoriously long and grueling. A generic 3-month fund simply doesn't stand a chance against a nearly 29-week search.
Section 1 of this explainer is all about calculating your real number.
Because the crucial point here is that we desperately need a new formula. An emergency fund isn't just generic savings sitting in an account, it is a highly customized insurance policy for your specific life. And to properly price that insurance policy, you need to look at 5 crucial risk variables that standard financial advice completely and utterly ignores. These are, number 1, your income stability. Number 2, your fixed obligation ratio. Number 3, your specific rehire timeline. Number 4, your household income concentration. And number 5, your credit access. Let's break down a couple of the absolute most dangerous blind spots on this list so you can see exactly how this works.
Variable number 2 is a massive one, your fixed obligation ratio. What does that mean? These are your contractual, entirely non-negotiable costs. We are talking about your rent, your mortgage, your car payments, your debt minimums, those ironclad childcare contracts. If your fixed obligation ratio is over 70% of your income, it completely changes your survival math. Why? Because when you lose your job, you can't just magically slash these expenses. You can stop eating out at restaurants, sure, you can cancel Netflix. But you absolutely cannot stop paying your mortgage or your student loans without triggering massive downstream damage to your credit and your life. If the vast majority of your monthly spend is locked in by contracts, you need a significantly larger cash reserve because your budget has zero flexibility.
Then we have the household income dynamic, which is variable number 4. Think about a dual income household where both partners work, especially if they are in completely different industries. That household has built-in diversification. If one person gets laid off, the other person's income can usually step in to keep the lights on and cover those terrifying fixed obligations we just talked about. But if you are a single income household, or you're just a single person entirely, you are highly vulnerable. You have zero financial backstops. If your income goes to zero, the entire household income goes to zero, period. Because of that immense risk, single income earners fundamentally require a much higher savings multiplier just to survive the exact same economic shock as a dual income family.
Moving right along, let's actually look at calculating your real number.
It is officially time to stop guessing and start actually calculating. Step 1 is finding your true emergency period monthly burn rate. Now listen closely. This is not what you earn, and it is definitely not some fantasy bare-bones budget where you pretend you'll never spend a dime. To find this, you need to take your actual monthly spending from the last 6 months and boldly cut out the genuine discretionary fluff, the restaurants, the vacations, the extra streaming subscriptions. But, and this is absolutely critical, do not cut your health insurance premiums, do not cut your minimum debt payments, and do not cut professional certifications you need to stay employable. When you do this honest math, for most professionals, this rock-bottom survival number lands somewhere between $3,000 and $5,500 a month. That right there is your absolute baseline.
Okay, so once you have that baseline burn rate locked in, the new formula we're using is beautifully simple, yet incredibly robust against real-world disasters. Here are the 3 steps. First, establish that emergency burn rate we just talked about. Second, determine your true coverage period. And third, apply risk multipliers based on those 5 variables we covered earlier. So the math is burn rate multiplied by coverage period scaled up by your risk. It really is that straightforward. But let's look a lot closer at step 2, because I promise you, there is a massive hidden trap lurking right inside the coverage period.
Your coverage period is not just how long it takes to find a job. Let me say that again. It is not just the job search. That is a dangerous, widespread myth. Your true coverage period actually equals your expected job search duration, plus the onboarding lag, plus a recovery buffer. That onboarding lag, that is the silent killer. Think about it. Even after you finally accept a new job offer, there's usually a 2 to 3 week notice period at your old job, or a wait to start the new one. Then there's orientation, and then there's another 2 to 4 week delay before your very first actual paycheck clears your bank account. That is 4 to 8 full weeks where you are technically employed, you're going to work every day, but you are still burning through your savings to buy groceries. You must add at least 1 to 2 months to your coverage period just to account for this lag.
Let's bring this to life and see how this plays out for Sarah, our freelance UX designer from earlier. When we stripped away the fluff, her true emergency burn rate was $4,100 a month. Because of her highly narrow specialty and the built-in volatility of freelance work, her base search and recovery time is realistically 5 to 7 months. But wait, add in the onboarding lag of actually getting new clients up and running and paying her invoices, plus a little recovery buffer, and suddenly she needs 8 to 10 months of coverage. When you apply her risk multipliers for being a single-income freelancer with no backstop, her adjusted, safe coverage need is a full 10 months. So let's do the math. $4,100 times 10 months equals an emergency fund target of $41,000.
Remember earlier? Her $28,000 in savings wasn't the comfy 8-month cushion she thought it was. It was dangerously, significantly short of her actual mathematical reality.
And what about Marcus, the W-2 tech worker in Austin, who confidently thought his $22,000 was the perfect textbook amount? Well, his emergency burn rate came out to $4,800. As a senior tech worker in a rapidly contracting market, his realistic job search is actually 6 to 8 months. Add the onboarding lag, add a recovery buffer, and then we have to account for his extraordinarily high fixed costs from childcare contracts, which gives him a very high single-income risk profile. When you crunch his real numbers, his target is actually between $52,000 and $60,000. He was up to $38,000 short of what he actually needed to survive. Because he had the wrong number in his head, he eventually ran out of cash, had to painfully raid his retirement accounts, pay huge penalties, and take on brutal high-interest credit card debt just to survive the gap.
Now we move on to part 2, the tiered storage strategy.
So now that you know your terrifyingly real larger number, the obvious question is, where in the world do you safely store this massive pile of cash without losing your mind over inflation and opportunity cost? You don't just dump it all in one basic checking account. You have to structure it carefully. We use a 3-tier system. Tier 1 is your immediate cash. This is exactly 1 month of your emergency burn rate sitting right there in a standard everyday checking account. Zero friction, absolute same-day liquidity for when the mortgage is literally due tomorrow. Tier 2 is your core reserve. This is about 2 to 4 months of expenses held in a high-yield savings account. It's totally liquid within a couple of days if you need to transfer it, but it actually earns you a respectable 4 to 5% yield. Finally, Tier 3 is your extended reserve for everything past month 5. You can comfortably put this in a short-term treasury bill ladder. It takes a few more days to liquidate, but it captures slightly higher yields and often avoids state income tax entirely. This tiered approach brilliantly balances your need for same-day survival with smart long-term wealth preservation.
Now, knowing where to put your money is great, but what is equally, if not more important, is knowing where you absolutely must not put this money. Rule number 1, do not, under any circumstances, put your core emergency fund in the stock market. Why? Because historically, major market crashes are highly correlated with massive industry layoffs. The exact moment you desperately need your cash to survive is the exact moment your portfolio is probably down 30%. You lock in huge losses. Also, do not use your 401k or IRA as a backup plan. The early withdrawal penalties and the massive tax hits will literally vaporize 25 to 40% of your money instantly. And finally, do not mix this survival cash with your opportunity fund for buying a house or investing in a startup. Mixing them creates a fatal illusion of security. You'll think you have a down payment, but really you just have a survival fund in disguise. And this brings us to a massive, often disastrous blind spot in this explainer, especially if you are one of those 76.4 million freelancers or gig workers we talked about earlier. We call it the tax dimension. See, if a standard corporate W-2 worker loses their job, their tax liability essentially stops right then and there because their paycheck stops. But if you are self-employed, your quarterly estimated taxes to the IRS do not magically hit the pause button just because your client pipeline dried up this month. Plus, you carry the full burden of the 15.3% self-employment tax. Freelancers and independent contractors absolutely must add a dedicated tax exposure buffer to their emergency fund specifically to cover those estimated payments during a dry spell. Because let me tell you, if you don't, the IRS quickly becomes your biggest, most unforgiving emergency. Now, if you are watching this explainer right now, scribbling down your own math, calculating your real number, and suddenly realizing with a pit in your stomach that you are $30,000 behind, take a deep breath. Do not panic. Here is the exact strategy to catch up. Step 1. Build to exactly 1 month of your emergency burn rate immediately. Stop all your extra aggressive investments, pause any extra debt paydowns above the minimums, and just get that 1 month of absolute zero-friction liquidity locked in. Once you have that, you change your mindset. You sequence your savings by coverage periods, not big scary dollar amounts. Don't look at the $30,000 mountain. Celebrate getting to 2 months of coverage, then celebrate 3 months. The actual mathematical risk reduction you get just by going from 1 month of runway to 2 months of runway is incredibly massive. Focus entirely on buying yourself time, month by month, step by step.
As you meticulously build this buffer, you have to be hyper-aware of psychological traps that can derail you. Trap number 1 is commingling funds. This is keeping your hard-earned emergency money in the exact same account as your vacation fund or your new car fund. When you do that, it makes it way too easy to mentally justify dipping into it for a mild emergency, like a really great deal on flights. Keep it completely separated, out of sight, out of mind. Trap number 2 is what we call the paper wealth illusion.
So many people out there think, well, I have $200,000 in home equity, so if things get bad, I'm totally fine. But here is the brutal truth. Home equity isn't cash. During a severe economic crisis, banks can, and historically absolutely do, freeze home equity lines of credit right when layoffs spike across the country. You cannot eat paper wealth, and you definitely cannot pay your grocery bill with the theoretical value of your house.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, here is the fundamental mindset shift that makes all of this difficult math completely worthwhile. I want you to remember this quote. Your emergency fund is not money you're giving up. It is money you are investing in your own ability to make good decisions under pressure. Think about the power in that. The person who has a calculated 10-month runway doesn't have to take a terrible, toxic job out of sheer desperation. They negotiate from a place of absolute power, not from a place of fear. This cash isn't just sitting idle and losing to inflation, it is doing active work. It is the ultimate insurance policy for your career trajectory, your lifetime earning potential, and honestly, your day-to-day mental well-being.
Ultimately, the core lesson of this entire explainer comes down to understanding one profound concept: the massive difference between imagined security and calculated security. The old, generalized 3-month rule of thumb? It gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling of imagined security. It is essentially a comforting lie. But when you actually sit down and do the real math, based on your actual rock-bottom burn rate, your specific industry's 20-plus week rehire timeline, and your unique household risk profile, you achieve true calculated security. The actual formula is what mathematically guarantees your survival when the absolute worst happens.
So, as we wrap up, I leave you with this final, genuinely provocative question that I want you to take with you today. What is your real number? Seriously, don't just guess. Not the generic average that applies to nobody, not what a dusty textbook from the 1970s told you. What is the actual, highly personalized, mathematically sound number that fundamentally guarantees your financial survival? I challenge you today. Pull up your bank statements, crunch your own specific data, build out your 3-tiered storage strategy. It is time to replace your fragile imagined security with ironclad calculated security and truly protect yourself and your family. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now get calculating.